Yo, what's up, boys and girls? It's Swolelax here, and I'm back at it again with the video with something a little bit different. Today, we have an extra special hero deck profile for you. It's been a while, I know y'all been asking, but ask and ye shall receive. I've got for you an extra spicy, extra new, extra special deck profile. This thing's sick. It is a synchro hero deck. I've had a lot of fun with this, testing this out over the last couple of weeks. I've been going through, I've been drilling, trying to make this thing as optimal as possible. I think I finally found a way to make this deck really good, super fun, have some insane plays, and a lot of versatility. If you guys have seen kind of the combo video that I posted a little bit earlier, links will be in the description down below if you want to see that. And you can kind of get a feel for how this deck kind of plays out and some of the plays you can make with it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get it right into it. If you guys want to see more deck profiles, be sure to subscribe. Also leave it a like, all that jazz. Let me know what you guys think of it there, but let's go ahead and get right into it. First things first, we got 3 copies of Vision Hero Vion. Vision Hero Vion is kind of the most important card inside this deck. It is very much a flex card, being that you can send stuff like Shadow Mist to the grave to get a search, Destiny Hero Malicious, most notably, to get those extra monsters out. This card is also a 1-card board load dragon. It's kind of insane. So what it allows you to do is when this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 hero monster from your deck to the grave. Incredibly powerful, insanely good. Plus, it's a dark hero monster, meaning that you can turn it into Dark Law, which is super useful. In addition to that, its secondary effect is that you can take a hero monster from your grave, banish it, and then you can get a polymerization from your deck to your hand. That card is insanely good. 3 of those for sure. Next, we're running 3 copies of Destiny Hero Malicious. Now, Mali is kind of insane because initially I don't really necessarily like the Destiny Heroes. I didn't necessarily like this card in particular, but it's kind of crazy the amount of plays and combos you can make with this card. So what you can do is if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard. It's supposed to summon out another copy of Destiny Hero Malicious from your deck. And that's not a once per turn effect, not a once per turn of play, because this was made before that time, thank God. So it's actually crazy that if you have 3 copies and you can get essentially 2 extra monsters and 2 extra special summons out in the field, which is incredibly important in this format. So I like this card at 3. Now, that being said, you don't necessarily want to see this card too often, ironically, for running 3, but it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world because you do have the fusion plays with Vion and other things you can go into. So do keep that in mind. If you aren't running 3, then you're not necessarily playing it as the most optimal. You can run 2, but you're not going to get the most for your buck for that one. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. Now, I know a lot of people run 3 Shadow Mists in most hero decks, and obviously this card is a staple 3 of it in a lot of other hero decks, but in particular, because this deck is not necessarily trying to go into Dark Law Turbo and your other fusion monsters, Shadow Mist in itself is kind of a weird outlier. It's a card that you do want to see a lot, but don't necessarily need to see that often inside of this deck because your main plays aren't going to be revolving around Shadow Mist and Dark Law, so to speak. You still are going to go into it, but I think 2 copies of that is perfectly fine. It's a pretty good search. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Elemental Hero Bubbleman. Bubbleman is a classic E-hero, one of my favorites because you can go into things like Absolute Zero, also into Mass Hero Acid. In addition to that, it has a special summon effect where if you control no other cards in your hand, you can special summon this card onto the field. And that can be pretty helpful. Not necessarily going to come up a lot in this deck, but it's mainly going to be used for your plays for Absolute Zero, for your board clears, and for Absolute Zero, for Mass Hero Acid to get rid of the spell cards. Next, we have 1 copy of Honest Neos. So Honest Neos is a really good card in this deck. So surprisingly enough, the heroes actually have a bad problem with power. They don't necessarily put out the most strong monsters, so to speak, and you can kind of have trouble getting over monsters that have more than 3, let's say, have 3,000 or more attack points. And it can kind of be a weird gray area. But so what Honest Neos allows you to do is discard this card from your hand and hero monster gains 2,500 attack points. It's incredibly powerful and can help add some extra protection to cards that need it. In addition to that, you are only running 1 of these because you don't necessarily want to see it in your hand too often. It can get kind of bricky, and you can obviously easily search this card. So it's just kind of one of those things that can help out in a pinch if you really need it. And that's going to be it for the heroes. Next, let's go ahead and go on to the other monsters inside the deck. Most of these cards are combo cards, so we're going to start off with 3 copies of Go Blindberg. Go Blindberg is a really good card inside this deck, especially because you have like a Nateria Beast Turbo play you can do. What this card does, when you normal summon this card, you can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your deck, so essentially most monsters, if not all monsters inside of this deck. It can really good going into Shadow Mist because you can get in the mass change with the special summon, and you can also get the Vision Hero Vion effect with it too. And in addition to that, you can also get a card like Armageddon Knight. So I'm running 2 copies of Armageddon Knight because Armageddon Knight is essentially just another Vion. It is a 1-card Borreload Dragon. When this card is summoned, whether it be normal or special summoned, you can send a dark monster from your deck to your grave. That can be Shadow Mist if you want to get that search, or it can also be Malicious if you need that extra summon. Card's incredibly good. Not good enough to run at 3, but good enough to run at 2. And next, under the hand traps, I got 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, aka Snogre, and 2 copies of Effect Violer. So these 2 cards are kind of like my budget hand traps for this format. They're actually really good and put in a lot of work. I will say it's kind of a Salt's preference taste in terms of hand traps. If you have more money or you have the extra copies, go ahead and put on the Ash Blossom. That card's incredibly powerful. If you guys have Joel and Lockbird, go ahead and do that. Essentially, these 2 slots are reserved for any hand traps that you have available to you. I like Effect Violer. It's actually a really nice budget option, and Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is also extremely powerful for warding off plays and for stopping things outright. So I like those 2 cards a lot. And finally, for the last monster, we have 1 copy of Attack Gainer. So Attack Gainer is actually really funny because it kind of looks like a hero in my opinion. It has a super sick card art. But essentially, this slot here goes to any level 1 Earth Tuner Warrior monster. So that can be Shin Squire, it can be, I think actually it's Shin Squire and I think Attack Gainer are the only 2 at my memory that fill that role. But this card's pretty good. It's kind of funny because initially I see a lot of deck profiles running Shin Squire. I personally like Attack Gainer for its effect a little better. Attack Gainer, what it does is if it's sent to the grave for its synchro material, which you are going to be doing, you can target an opponent's monster and it loses 1,000 attack until the end phase. That's extremely powerful, especially because the heroes actually have a problem with getting over cards, like I said. So if you need to get that extra decrease in a stack of attack points for your opponent's monster, then Attack Gainer is where it's at. Plus, I love the card artwork. Looks like a hero. It's sick. And that's going to be it for the monsters. Next, we're going to the spell cards. We are running no trap cards, so let's go ahead and get into these. A lot of these are combo pieces. We got 3 copies of Mask Change. Mask Change is an incredibly powerful card inside the hero deck. This card's super sick. You can set it to surprise your opponent on their turn, clear their boards. Also go into cards like Acid and Dark Law. 3 copies of that for sure. Next, we're going 2 copies of Hero Lives. Hero Lives is a nice comeback card, and also in addition to that is a great summon with Shadow Mist on the field, getting your Mask Change to your hand. Incredibly good combo starter there as well. 1 copy of Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion is, I feel like this deck has a problem with comeback plays. It's kind of interesting. So if your opponent's able to clear your board, or is able to get rid of a lot of your threats on the field, then Miracle Fusion can help out kind of getting those things back to where you're going from your graveyard. So I like it a lot. 1 copy of Polymerization, just to search with your Vision Hero Vion, go into your fusion play, do absolute 0. This card is pretty good. I like using it a lot. In fact, I know a lot of people are running like Trinity. I see a few people running the, what's the one with 2 dark heroes. There's a lot of plays you can do with it. Just keep that in mind, but only 1 copy of Polymerization. Next, we're running a card that I think any combo deck should run, and that's going to be 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave, and is an insanely powerful card and such good value. So, what you can do is, let's say your opponent, you're going through a combo. Like you're going through a combo, you're having a good time, and your opponent's like, no, I'm an Ash Blossom now, or I'm going to Snogre that, Effect Violer. Just slap down one of these babies, negates the effect. You can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, negate the effects, and also negates the effects of cards of that name until the next turn. Insanely powerful card, such great value, especially because it's a Crimson Uncommon, and you also have it in the Super Rare, Ultra Rare, whatever the rarity is called, and it's incredibly powerful. And it's a non-once per turn effect, so if you have multiple copies and they have multiple hand traps, then you just slap one of these down and you're good to go. I like that card a lot. 3 of those. Next, onto a card that I think is low-key broken inside this deck and broken in general, and that's 3 copies of Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, or if you like to call it Hornibits, whatever. This card is really good. So there's somewhat of an Izzled Turbo aspect to this deck. It does have not necessarily a problem with getting out multiple summons, but like I said, you're pretty much only able to get the Vion into the Mali. So having the Sky Striker's Hornet Drones allows you to get an extra warrior onto the board, and there's actually a few really cool synchro plays you can make with it as well. In addition to that, you can chain it off itself, so if you have multiple copies, you can chain it to get 2 tokens, or a play I like to do is slapping down a Hero Lives, and then a Hero Lives goes on the board. You chain your Hornet Drones to it, and then after that, you get your token plus Shadow Mist plus the Mask Change. Really powerful card. Really great in a lot of decks, I think, especially in this deck because you are running a lot of warrior monsters. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is a really good card in this deck because it allows you to go into Carbonella Warrior, kind of getting your Materia Beast Turbo going off. I'm only running 2 of these. I see a lot of decks running 3 of them, but I'm not really personally a huge fan of 3 just because I feel like it can get kind of bricky if you don't necessarily have plays to go in afterwards, but it's just kind of an option available to you if you need the extra warrior or if you need the Carbonella warrior. And next onto our one-ofs, we got one copy of Reinforcement of the Army. Reinforcement of the Army is an insane card. Rhoda searches literally every single card in your deck. One copy of Raigeki just gets the board clears. One copy of Monster Reborn because its card's insane. One copy of Foolish Burial, allowing you to get the Search, the Shadow Mist, an extra summon with Mally, and also the fusion materials if you want to send Bubble Man to the grave, if you have Miracle Fusion in hand. Card's really good. I like that. And finally, we have one copy of Axe of Fools. So you see a lot with Isolde. You can be running Axe of Fools, you can be running Phoenix Blade, you can be running Moon Mirror Shield. All those cards work for this. I personally like Axe of Fools in this deck just because you're able to slap it down, equip it to your opponent's monster, and negate their effects. So you can, if you have a hard time getting over a monster, or if you need to bait out like a negation effect, then you can totally do that as well. Super good card. I like it a lot. But like I said, you can replace that with Moon Mirror Shield, with Phoenix Blade, any types of options for equipped spells that you may have. I just personally like Axe of Fools quite a bit. And that's going to be it for the main deck, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let's go ahead and get into the extra decks. The extra deck actually has a few different things that you may want to keep in mind. I'm going to go over real quick. But first and foremost, you get two copies of Isolde, Two Tales of the Noble Knights. This card is low-key great and low-key busted. It's kind of insane. I love this card. I've been loving it since it came out. I made a bunch of videos talking about it. But what you're able to do with this card is when you link someone on the field, you can search a warrior monster to your hand. That can be any warrior monster possible. I know I see a lot of people doing BLS. I see some people doing Neos. It's crazy powerful, super good. In addition to that, secondary effects, you can send equip spells to the grave equal to the number of a level of a warrior monster you want to summon. So in this case, we send an Axe of Fools, and that means you can summon a level 1 warrior monster, being an attack gainer. You kind of see where I'm going with this. Isolde's pretty great. It's kind of insane. Plus, the link arrows are crazy. Next, we have a Nightmare Engine. We get one copy of Nightmare Phoenix and one copy of Nightmare Cerberus. So, funny enough, if you need to cut Phoenix or Cerberus, I'd recommend going to Borreload Dragon. I don't necessarily have a Borreload Dragon with me. I don't necessarily have the Skrilla for that. But rest assured, I will be investing in one of those soon because that card is absolutely insane. Absolutely broken. But for now, we're running Phoenix and Cerberus just to kind of get that spot removal and kind of can go into plays where we need to. The Nightmare Engine is incredibly powerful, and it's a really great link cards there. So I'm running that as my link spread. And next, we're on to our fusion monsters. We have one copy of Carbonella Warrior for your Earth level 4 monster, kind of go into your Interior Beast Turbo, incredibly good card. Two copies of Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero is absolutely insane. This card is Raigeki on legs. Crazy board clears and really good combos you can do with cards like two copies of Masked Hero Acid. Masked Hero Acid allows you to do is when it's normal, especially when on the field, then you can clear your opponent's back row, destroy all spells and traps on the field. There's a crazy wombo combo you can do where you have Absolute Zero and you have Masked Hero Acid, and you change Absolute Zero into Masked Hero Acid and you clear the entire board. It's kind of nuts and kind of broken, low-key. And next we got two copies of the Long Arm of the Dark Law. Dark Law is an incredibly powerful card inside the hero decks, the Macrocosmos on legs. Plus, in addition to that, if your opponent adds a card from the deck to the hand, except for they're in the draw phase, you can banish one card at random. That's incredibly powerful, can deter your opponent from searching cards. And sometimes this card wins you the duel outright. If you just slap down a Dark Law, they sometimes just quit. And it's pretty great. And that's going to be it for the fusion cards. Next, we're actually going to go on to the synchro cards. This is kind of the gimmick, so to speak, of this deck. It's kind of the extra plays you can make with it, extra combos you can do. I'm running one copy of Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. I'm going to kind of go in order from cards you are least likely to summon to most likely to summon. So Red Dragon Archfiend, you can kind of get, it's a level 8 monster. This deck does have problems summoning level 8s and level 10, so you kind of want to sit in the area between level 5s, level 7s, and level 9s. So keep that in mind. But Archfiend's really good. It's a 3,000 beat stick body. And in addition to that, once per turn, you can destroy all special summon monsters on the field and deal 500 life points to your opponent for all the cards that were destroyed. So really powerful card, really good. You can get it a few times, and if you need to out some certain monsters, then you can do it. It's kind of my... if you need to get rid of a card for Borreload Dragon later, you can either do this card or the Cerberus or Phoenix, like I said previously. But really good card for now. I like it a lot. Next, we got one copy of Vermilion Dragon Mech. This card has insane artwork, beautiful secret rare. In addition to that, it's a 2,700 body that you can make. It has a really cool effect. It has a pops card on the field if you banish a tuner from your grave. So obviously you have attack gain already in there from summoning them. So it's kind of a free pop as well. But it's a really good card in general. I like it a lot. Next, we have one copy of Dawn Dragster. Dawn Dragster is low-key a great card inside the deck and a great card in a lot of decks that kind of need just a generic rank 7 synchro. What you're able to do is you can negate a spell or trap card on the field. In addition to that, it has piercing damage. That doesn't necessarily come up too often, but is a nice play that you can make a little bit later. And finally, one copy of Neteria Beast. So Neteria Beast, the Neteria Beast combo is going into the most optimal thing. You have Dark Law on the field, Neteria Beast. This card negates spell cards by milling 2 cards from your deck and sending them to the grave. It kind of crazy too because it's not a once per turn effect, so you can do as many times as you want. Your opponent can slap down as many combo pieces, as many spell cards as they need. This card gets rid of them all. So like I said, I'm ordering these in terms of least likely to summon to most likely to summon. Kind of in a weird way, Dawn Dragster is kind of the most likely to summon with this deck because you're able to get out Mally so often. But Neteria Beast is definitely the best one. You definitely want to see this as often and as often and as soon as possible. But like I said, these cards can all be pretty much interchangeable except for Neteria Beast Turo, to be honest. So kind of play around with it and see what works for you with level 7s, level 9s, even level 8s, or even level 10s. If there's a way you guys can get into anything else, let me know down in the comments. This is kind of the spread I like here. I may be changing up sometime in the future, but play around with it. It's all to preference and see what you like. I personally like those cards right there. And that's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. If you guys like the heroes, if you guys like this build, the synchro build of heroes for Neteria Beast Turbo, for your Dawn Dragster Turbo, let me know what you guys think of it. If you guys have seen the combo video, or if you have not, there'll be a link in the description down below. Kind of get a feel of how this deck wants to play and how this deck works out. But there are a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different things you can do with it. It is very fun, really fast, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you guys like the video, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I got more videos coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned for that if you want to. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Peace out.